Pas de soleil, 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 pas de soleil.
Good afternoon, and welcome to AJ's Green Thumb. So, when you subscribe to AJ's Green Thumb, you're in for a real treat. You're gonna get the full spectrum of gardening. From seed starting, which I plan on covering in this video, from planting out in the landscape, creating beautiful beds and borders. I also do light woodworking. I have created vegetable beds using pressure-treated lumber. I do composting. I create new beds. I install border material with my beds. I'm a plant fanatic, so I'm always keeping abreast as to what new species or new varieties of species of plants come out each year. I primarily plant shrubs, perennials, herbaceous perennials, a few annuals, and small trees. When you join AJ's Green Thumb, you're joining a journey. You're going to see the development of my garden from the day I moved in this single family house back in January of 2019 until present. You will see the raw, the untouched, uncultivated landscape turn into something beautiful. And also, if you haven't subscribed, I welcome you to do so. It's relatively simple. Just hit that bell so that you can get notifications of future content on the channel. So in this video today, I plan on covering winter sowing. Now, winter sowing is relatively new. It's a relatively new concept to a lot of people. I would say within the last 3 years, perhaps, well, for me, is when I became aware of winter sowing. So last year, 2020, I successfully winter sowed several shrubs, small trees, and annuals. I also experimented with winter sowing lots of flowers. I successfully winter sowed Achillea, which is yarrow. I've also successfully winter sown poppies. I winter sown lavender, which takes a while. I've winter sown very successfully purple coneflower. I've also successfully winter sown columbine, lupins, and delphiniums. So in today's video, I plan on winter sowing a few perennials and several annuals. So here are the plants that I plan on winter sowing for you guys. These are all my perennials down here. So you see I got 2 types of columbine, Barlow's double mixed and McKenna's mixed. I also got some hollyhock seeds, delphinium seeds, and the trusty dusty butterfly weed, which is excellent for pollinators. So I definitely plan on getting about 3 or 4 more plants for my garden this year. Then I have Shasta daisy and some catmint. And up here for annuals, I've got bachelor button, aster, some more bachelor button. Aren't those pretty? Some larkspur, and then some snapdragon. So the first thing I do is identify which seeds I plan on winter sowing. And I'll go ahead and make all my labels for each of the plants, for each of the seeds that I plan on planting today. Winter sowing in itself is basically planting your seeds in a greenhouse-like container, setting it outside, and forgetting about it. That's the essence of winter sowing. Winter sowing, you may be asking, am I a candidate for winter sowing in my climate? Is this something that I can undertake? So as long as your climate has the conditions that support cold stratification of seeds, then you're pretty much a candidate for winter sowing. Winter sowing is a process that takes place during the winter months. So clearly you're looking for temps that are freezing or probably below freezing. Winter sowing for a head start on spring gardening. This is thespruce.com. But winter sowing is a technique for planting seeds in winter to give them a head start in spring. While the idea of starting seeds early is very old, a new method involving mini greenhouses is becoming increasingly popular. So some of the benefits with winter sowing is you may actually get a better germination rate, because as many experienced gardeners know, seeds, particular seeds, need a cold period. They need a cold, damp period, which essentially is the stratification process. Because the coldness and the dampness freezes and thaws the seed. And that shell of the seed breaks down slowly over the winter months. There's another way that you can get your seeds in a head start to germinate is by scarification, where you lightly scratch the seed, thereby damaging the shell of the seed. Some folks use a nail clipper, you can use a box cutter, you can use an X-Acto knife, just something that's really sharp and abrasive that will lightly damage the shell of that seed. Scarification. So with winter sowing, I think it's appropriate to give props where props is due. So, and I'm still going off of thespruce.com. The phrase winter sowing is attributed to Trudy Davidoff, a resourceful gardener who had more seeds than indoor space. Miss Davidoff sows seeds in covered containers. She used takeout containers with foil bottoms and plastic tops, and then moves the containers outdoors. The containers act as mini greenhouses, allowing the seeds to experience the chill of winter in a controlled environment. Miss Davidoff has a website. It's called wintersown.org, wintersown.org, O-R-G. And in 2006, USDA recognized the viability of the technique by adding the term to the National Agricultural Library Thesaurus. So it's a legit practice. It's actually very practical. And as I mentioned earlier, if you don't have that much room indoors for grow lights and setups and so on and so forth, you can actually winter sow. Take advantage of winter sowing, because you'll be surprised. Last year, I was successful in winter sowing several perennials and annuals. A lot of native plants such as Butterfly weed, I was able to winter sow that. Columbine, I was able to winter sow that. Yarrow, I was really successful with that. Poppies, I was actually successful with those. Catmint, verbena, I was very successful with winter sowing last year. I'd say a success rate of above 75%. So what containers can I use for winter sowing, you may ask? I have here an iced tea jug, and here's another jug where I cut, so I can demonstrate how to cut a jug open. I really didn't want to spend too much time doing that. I really was more interested in going over the concept of winter sowing. But it's really simple. You take a marker or a grease pencil like I have, and you basically trace out where you want to cut. So one thing to note is you want approximately 4 inches of soil to accommodate growing roots throughout the winter growing season. All right, so I would trace roughly 4.5 inches from the bottom of the container. All right. Using my X-Acto knife. I'll be sure to speed this up. I guess that'll be on my bloopers. So I made an incision with my X-Acto knife, and I'll take the pair of scissors to finish off cutting the plastic. All right. One thing to note is leave on the corner of the container, leave about 1 inch or 1.5 inches so that you can hinge like this, so that you can hinge the container open and close. Why do you want to do that? The importance of doing that is once your plants have grown to a point where there's little room at the top of the container, you want to go ahead and take the tape off and open it up like this and just let your plants grow out like that. You'll experience a lot of plant growth when the weather warms up. And so therefore, to give your plants more room, you take the tape off, hinge it open like this, and just let your plants continue to grow for the remainder of this whole process. So you're probably asking, at what point do you transplant your plants from your winter sown containers out into the garden? In my experience, I actually left my winter sown plants in their containers well into late April, early May. And yes, winter sowing is supposed to acclimate the plants to the outdoor environment. You still want to be careful and don't be hasty in transplanting your plants, because you may experience temperature fluctuations before or after your last frost date. Okay? And I'm just going off of experience. So, there you go. Nice little hinge. All right? So, with that being said, let's do some winter sowing. So for my seed mix, I'm going to use a mixture here. I've got bagged Miracle Grow. It's pretty common. I also have a block of coconut core. All right. You just get yourself a big container. You put the brick in it. You pour 4.5 quarts of water, and it basically expands. And whatever you have left over, you can just store it for later use. And this is Burpee coconut core mix. All right, so what I like to do with my bag mix is sterilize the soil. And the way I do that is I boil the water. Mention the tools I have to winter sow, okay, again, are jugs, containers, potting mix, a trowel, sharp edge, razor blade, knife, X-Acto knife, a marker to mark where you're gonna cut. All right. Spray bottle of water. All right, so let's put all this aside. And your duct tape, or, well, preferably duct tape, because it adheres better and you're able to mark on it as well. The marker seems to stay better on electrical tape. It's just experience. That cheap packing tape, that clear packing tape, that pretty much disintegrates in a couple of months. All right, so get my soil. So I empty my soil out, okay? Actually, I'm gonna just do the whole thing. So right now I got this kitchen smelling real tough right now. It's smelling real tough. All right. All right, so now that we got that consistency, another thing I want to do, like I said, I want to mix the Burpee seed starting mix with this. And I also recommend you using some regular potting mix, which I'm gonna have to sterilize a little bit too. Why? Because I find the regular potting mix maintains a little extra moisture. All right, so that's enough. All right, so here's our brick. Fill this with 4.5 quarts of water. There's 1, 2, it's 3, 4.5. As you can see, that brick is expanding pretty quickly. Yum. All right, so now my coconut core has expanded and absorbed all of this water. Mix it up. All right, so we got a nice mix going here. Perfect. Transfer a good amount of this medium in this smaller container. All right. That should be enough for us to work with. Okay. Get this out of here. All right. One last thing you need to do, since these are containers, you need to ensure they have drainage holes. So I'm just going to drill a few at the bottom of these. Without killing myself here. Now you don't want to have too many holes, because what ends up happening is it'll drain a little too much and you lose a lot of moisture. Let's cut open Columbine. So for Columbine Barlow's double mixed color, you're really supposed to space these out when you sow them. It's supposed to be 18 inches, so that's a whole 1.5 feet. All right, so this is what it looks like. Kind of tamp it down like this to settle the soil. All right. So what's going to happen over the course of the season with a lot of watering, it will sink. So get your Columbine. And that's all I need. That's literally all. You're very tempted to put a lot of seeds in there because you want to see something. But trust me, give these seeds room. So maybe what you could do is put 2 seeds here, a few seeds here, 1 in the middle, here, and here. So that's 5 locations. That increases your chances of something germinating. And what am I doing? All right. So that's in there. And you want to water it in. because with columbine, you really don't want to place the seeds too deep. Since the seeds were so small, they pretty much filtered through the crevices on the top of the soil. So I really don't see a need in putting any more soil on top, because the recommended depth is 1/8 inch. All right. For me, guys, I'm a geek. I have a label maker. I know a lot of folks, even myself, I learned from experience from last year. I use a magic marker and even a grease pencil. And the course of that winter season, half of the plants, I didn't even know what they were anymore. Some folks have a numbering system where they put like a huge 1 on the container, and then they have like an inventory list, and then it has all the different plants on that that list. See what I noticed right here? Even though this lettering will not come off with the label maker, the label itself doesn't seem to be on there as tough as I want it to be. So I will just do something like this. That way most of the name shows. But some of it is tacked down with the tape. All right, so that's one done. Columbine, Barlow's, blah, blah, blah. Complete. So that was done. Let's jump over and do a Shasta Daisy. Isn't that pretty? So this takes full sun. It is, the height is 1 foot to 2 feet. Spacing is 12 inches, okay? A little less than the columbine. And it takes 2 to 3 weeks to germinate. Now this is if you were direct sowing it. In this case, we're winter sowing it, so it's gonna take a little longer. It's gonna cold stratify. So like I did with the columbine, let me show you how small the seeds are for the Shasta Daisy. Look at that. Very tiny. But I think they're a little bit bigger than the columbine, and you can definitely see them. You can see them a lot better than the columbine. All right, so I'm gonna do, just like the columbine, I'm gonna do like 2 or 3 in each location, on each side or whatever. I'll just do a few in the middle, a few in the left corner, a few in the right corner, and so on and so forth. Because you don't want to put too many seeds in there. Okay, this is something where you do not want to do a lot of maintenance. Winter sowing should not consist of you doing a lot of maintenance. So this needs to be a little bit deeper than the columbine. The columbine was 1/8 inch. Shasta daisy needs to go in 1/4 inch. So I will actually lightly drop some soil on top of each group of seeds, okay? So that's another thing. Even though you might be successful with winter sowing, you need to ensure that the plants you're winter sowing, if you plan on putting them out in the garden, will be successful, meaning you need to make sure they have the proper growing conditions. All right, so that's my Shasta daisy. Like I said, I have a label maker. So I'll do this. And I'll follow up with a piece of tape on each end just to make sure that label stays on there. Kind of press down on the tape to make sure you have really good contact, because again, with winter sowing, you want to do as little bit of maintenance outside of this process right here as possible. Okay. Shasta daisy, dwarf silver princess. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of AJ's Green Thumb. I appreciate it. The subject was winter sowing. I hope you guys found it educational, and all the bloopers I made, I hope you learned from them. Again, winter sowing is a neat way for you to save space in your home when growing seeds over the winter. And the bonus is you don't have to harden off your seedlings when you're ready to plant them into the garden during the planting season. So a few things to remember: if you have very little rainfall, make sure you supplement water your seedlings. Also, if you get an excess or excessive rainfall, make sure you transfer your seedlings, well, in the containers, to somewhere that has an overhang or can limit the amount of water that they receive. Because two things that will kill seedlings, overwatering and underwatering. One of the running jokes with winter sowers is every couple of days, they're always peering over and looking into the containers to see if something sprouted. So this is a process that I think that you really enjoy. Again, thanks for watching AJ's Green Thumb. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Pas de soleil, 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 pas de soleil.